Greetings everyone, I am Enraged Eggplant and welcome to Dungeons and GURPS. In this video I will tell you how I make blood magic in GURPS. This is actually a topic that I can only call D&D adjacent, because while there is the Blood Magus prestige class in D&D, it's not the one that I use as the base here. Instead, the source of inspiration is the Dominions video game series, where blood magic is tied to human sacrifice. In these games, blood magic uses unique mechanics that make it really stand out from all other types of magic. I think that Dominion-style blood magic fits well into the D&D settings. After all, you already have cultists that sacrifice captives to their demon lords, so why not justify it mechanically? So this is how I adapted blood magic to GURPS. Blood magic is one of the most ancient forms of magic. In the past, it was practiced in many places of the world, but nowadays it is considered barbaric and uncivilized. In most places, blood magic use is forbidden. Depending on the game, this may require you to take such disadvantages as negative reputation, enemy, social stigma, secret, or a combination of thereof. Blood magic does not require mana, and thus can be used in no mana areas. However, it is still treated as arcane magic for detection and neutralization. A blood magic spell can be dispelled with dispel magic, resisted with magic resistance, etc. This replaces the magical -10% limitation that is part of the power modifier with lesser mana sensitivity -5%. A blood mage can only use his HP to cast spells. He cannot use FP or energy reserve. He cannot preserve his own blood or blood of others and use it later to cast spells. This replaces the costs fatigue 1 FP -5% limitation that is part of the power modifier with costs hit points 1 HP -10%. Thus, the final blood magic power modifier has a value of -15%. Note that spending HP to cast spells does not count as injury for the purpose of shock penalties. When rolling a critical failure on a casting roll, use the diabolic horrific table from page 258 of GURPS Thaumatology. Weak latency blood perk exists, and blood mages and mahotsukais, that we'll talk about later, are able to combine their powers as per combining powers, that is described on pages 170 to 172 of GURPS powers, but not with other arcane spellcasters. Unlike other spellcasters, blood mages require a full minute of ritual movements and concentration to link up, but they get to roll against the higher of their IQ and ritual magic, blood magic, to do so. Blood magic is also limited thematically in its effects. I have analyzed the spell list from Dominions 5 and created the following guidelines in regards to the scope of blood magic. Blood magic can do the following: cause bleeding either as toxic damage to a creature with open wounds or by afflicting the victim with hemophilia. Summon fiends and far realm entities such as demons, devils, Yugoloths, demodons, cohorti, sky bleeders, etc. Transport creatures bodily to the lower planes, the far realm, or back to the material plane from there. Open gates to the aforementioned planes. Rejuvenate and heal living creatures, both HP and FP. Neutralize poisons, cure disease, regrow lost limbs, make bodies regenerate. But the caster can only cast such spells on himself when using blood points gained via sacrifice. I think this is a good balancing point here. I usually do not allow arcane magic to heal others. Blood magic can also banish any outsiders, not only fiends. It can also strengthen bodies of living creatures by afflicting strength, dexterity, health, or increased basic speed. It can grant fiendish characteristics: claws, horns, DR, usually with tough skin, leathery wings, infravision, dark vision, magic resistance. These buffs are usually limited with temporary disadvantage that grant vulnerability to holy weapons, cold iron, silver, or other appropriate fiendish weaknesses. It can leech living creatures to heal FP but not HP. It can afflict minds with such disadvantages as bad temper, berserk, bloodlust, bully, combat paralysis, and other forms of madness. It can cause internal damage by boiling or freezing blood. Also cause pain, heart attack, or paralysis by freezing blood. It can weaken bodies by reducing ST and or HT with afflictions, granting low pain threshold, easy to kill, easy to subdue, hemophilia, etc. It can cause fright checks. Only terror and confusion, awe and despair are not appropriate. It can destroy souls, that's an insta-kill spell. It can take control of souls via possession with telecontrol. It can call down a rain of blood. This contaminates wells, pollutes the surroundings, but does not have any other effects. It can reflect incoming damage with DR with reflection. It can attack with Hellfire. I treat Hellfire as burning attacks with Armor Divisor 2 and effects insubstantial. It can create and launch blood projectiles. It can create vampires via rituals. It can increase fertility both of creatures and crops, allowing creation of extraordinary hybrids. It can detect blood and blood mages, but not blood magic or normal magic. I feel that this is more or less equivalent to 2 colleges of magic, so the scope limitation for Sorcerer's Empowerment will be worth minus 30%. The resulting Sorcerer Empowerment for blood magic will cost 14 points for level 1, plus 7 points per additional level. And now let me describe the signature mechanic Ritual Sacrifice. To gain energy for spellcasting, a blood mage can make a ritual sacrifice. To do so, the mage must make a successful ritual magic blood magic roll. The sacrifice requires 5 seconds to perform on a restrained victim. He can apply bonuses for extra time spent on preparations. The victim being sacrificed must be a sapient creature. The amount of energy gained is equal to the victim's IQ times victim's HP divided by 10. This amount is further increased by 20% for every level of Sorcerer's Empowerment blood magic that the victim has. The energy accumulated has a cap equal to the amount of points spent on Sorcerer's Empowerment blood. Any surplus is lost. This energy dissipates at a rate of 1 point per 24 hours after the sacrifice, unless the sorcerer makes a successful ritual magic blood magic roll each day to prevent energy dissipation. A roll of 16 on this check always fails, and a roll of 17 or 18 is always a critical failure that results in losing all accumulated blood points. The energy can only be spent to pay HP costs of spells or to cancel penalties to spell rolls, such as for distance or as penalties to the target's resistance. Canceling spell penalties is 2 blood points per -1 removed. Lowering the target's resistance is 5 blood points per -1 to target's resistance roll. Blood points can be spent to alleviate penalties for hardcore improvisation at a rate of 1 blood point to -1 of the penalty. This energy is cumulative. It adds to any unspent energy. This way a blood mage can make several sacrifices in a row to gain a significant amount of energy. Summoned creatures and creatures with no blood cannot be sacrificed to gain energy. You might ask me, why do I need these mechanics if this probably will only be used by NPC villains? And the answer is that I hate GM fiat mechanics and NPC exclusive mechanics. Even if this is mostly made with NPCs in mind, having a set of mechanics in place makes the game more consistent. Player characters with knowledge of blood magic will know what to expect from the NPC blood mages. I think this is a good and a fair thing. The other question you might have is why the victim having blood magic Sorcerer's Empowerment makes him a more worthy sacrifice. I made it up myself. I think this is a good justification for why blood magic is so uncommon in the world. that blood mages are encouraged to sacrifice one another. I'll link the blog post with this write-up that also includes several spell examples in the description, and also will link the 150-point blood mage template that I made. Also, the Oriental Adventures supplement for D&D 3.0 has an Oriental Blood Mage Prestige class, Mahotsukai. The only difference is the power modifier that all the spells have also have the corrupting minus 20% limitations, to make spells cheaper to cast, but causing them to deteriorate the caster's body and psyche with each casting. And that's it for this video, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.